Hey, what's up everybody? This is Mark from SolarGames, and today we are going to talk about some of the big news items that dropped with Grand Archive in the past few days. So we had a kind of like a double news day with Grand Archive in the past 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. And so I want to make sure that we give some coverage, some, highlighting of these news items, which I think are pretty important to the community out there that's not on Discord, that's not in the general threads that would read articles from Grand Archive. So yes, all 5 of you guys out there. The other reason is because I noticed on my channel, especially recently, there's been a lot of my kind of like Magic the Gathering fans that have kind of slowly started migrating towards other games, right? And in the kind of essence of me sharing like with you guys what other alternatives there are out there, what kind of things are available, I figured I'd kind of share with you a little bit about what Grand Archive's doing as a game, and in many different respects, why in some cases, showcasing like what the company's actually doing, why you should give some trust to the company, or if you like to just learn more about Grand Archive, this is a good idea. So one of the first big news items that dropped was the banned and restricted announcement. So there was an announcement, another one, added on Monday. No actual ban or restricted updates, so nothing added, but something was added to Proxia's vault. For those that are not familiar with what Proxia's vault is, it's essentially GA's hotfix or patch as a game. Normally for a physical paper card game, you don't have ways to kind of fix the game once you print the cards, right? You can either ban the cards or restrict the cards, and in rare cases you can errata the cards, but that gets very confusing as the cards don't read the same way that they're played. So it's a really tricky process and can be very expensive at times too if not done correctly, right? So Grand Archive's kind of like added a fourth option, if you will, called Proxia's Vault. The incentive here is that basically there are extra cards injected into the game from time to time to adjust certain meta issues or like meta inequalities, and allows certain decks to, for example, achieve their goal better, faster, do it in a different way, etc. In general, trying to make sure the game is very healthy from a meta competitive perspective. So to that end, there was a third card that was added in just this past week, right, on Monday, 2 days ago. It's a relic, or it's a regalia for the Luxem element. Obviously, it's basically built for assassins and assassins that are going to be running prep counters. It's the Insignia of Korhazi, and basically it's a draw engine, right? So essentially, this card allows you to, every time you spend cards that use prep counters, to also draw a card if you have a certain influence less than 6. Influence just means cards in memory plus the cards in hand. That's your influence. Now, the whole idea here is because a lot of assassins, especially Luxem assassins going to level 3, they're expending so much of their card advantage into banishment to kind of go up in level, whereas other elements, once they get to level 3, they have a pretty strong draw engine. The Luxem element suffers from lacking that draw engine, having like very few cards that allows you to do this, so they're going to be card down, and oftentimes it's hard to recover from that, right? And this card essentially will try to balance that out. There are a lot of kind of cool combinations I'm already thinking about. For example, you can use 1,000 refractions to allow you to indefinitely draw, so it feels kind of like an Adversary combination with Insignia. There are ways that, of course, you can also just now get more value from your prep cards. And as a Luxem element assassin, it's okay to stay a little bit low on hand because you can always use your prep counters in a way that would actually gain you card advantage that wouldn't exist before, right? So that is actually a really cool addition to the whole Luxem package here. The other part of it too is there is a 3-tap put a prep counter on your assassin, on your champion. I kind of find this part a little bit useless because I think there are other ways to gain prep counters much easier. And in effect, you don't really need to you're not really sitting on this card for many, many turns. Likely this is going to be the last turn you're going to take once you get this card. You take a turn, you recollect your memory, and you take another turn. That's about it. That's pretty much the end of, you should win by that point, right? And of course, it just feels like maybe this card, in a lot of ways, it does feel a little bit adversary. It does feel like you're going to be drawing. One of the downsides, obviously, is that you're drawing this into memory, which is not the same as drawing into hand, which is a huge, huge, huge downside of this card. So it's still pretty slow, maybe better for a water deck that's going to play a little bit more defensive, looking for extra turns. So now I feel like I'm arguing myself out of the hole, like this is not a slow card. It could be a very slow card, but I feel like it's already pretty slow because to get this card to materialize, you essentially have to go to level 3, then get the card out, that's another turn, and then start playing your prep counter cards to then take another turn where you have the card advantage. It feels a little bit like off, So yeah, there you go. Yeah, in general, do I think this thing is going to affect meta? I think it will give some assassins a little bit more like tools, but I don't think it's really going to change the meta much because, again, drawing cards into memory without a way to then bring them into hand does not give you that explosive turn that Avarice Ascension gave the Lorraine players or the Reckless Conversion Loop for Rye players, right? It doesn't have that same feel. And I think it's good that GA is essentially not designing cards that are going to do that for you. So I think that's overall net positive. So the second piece of news that kind of came up yesterday was the dev update number 1. So first of all, I love reading Roger perspectives because I just think it's really cool that you're able to kind of get this insight into what's happening in the developer's side. And I don't know, it's really well thought through whenever he writes something. And a lot of times it's giving me insights into the game, into the design process, into the operation process of the game and the company that you normally don't get with just card design. The first thing that they talked about in this article is just going to be hiring more people. So marketing, organized play, and of course, international expansion, which I think that third point there, international expansion, is really, really cool. It just signals that this company is growing up and it's looking to say, how can we make our card game, which is honestly, in a lot of ways, a better fit for like external markets, Asian markets, whatever, more available in those markets too. I think the problem will be that the aesthetics is great for those markets, but maybe the gameplay is not really what those Asian markets are looking for. A lot of those markets are very used to the heavy power creep type of card games. So we'll see how it does in the Asian markets for that perspective. The second major piece is really focusing on improving communications, and that means communications to both the players and the store. Now, Grand Archive has been pretty community grown. We mostly get our news from the Discord channels. That's how you know about Grand Archive updates. LGSs have kind of spoken that they don't get a lot of updates from Grand Archive, and they have to make product decisions among other products that they have to order with very few inputs on what's coming. For example, imagine you're an LGS and you have to order the next set. How do you actually put in an order for the next set without understanding what's going to be in the set and effectively what's actually going to matter for that set? And that's one of the challenges that Grand Archive is trying to overcome, because mostly we've been a pull model, right? So players kind of go to the source and get the information, and they want to change that to a push model where maybe there's email newsletters players can sign up for and other means of communication where the players are going to get information pushed right to them rather than them grabbing it and acquiring it directly from the source, right? And of course, Grand Archive is a competitive card game. So the next bulletin point was really around this whole expansion of organized play. Again, not just organized play in that sense that we're going to have more events. We actually have quite a bit of events at Grand Archive, even though this is a very young game. There's regional store championships. There's national level, global level type of competitions already, which is insanely cool for a very, very, very young game with very, very few people kind of running the ship. But what they're really talking about here is kind of extending and expanding that promo experience of playing at the local game store. So as you know, a lot of card games struggle, especially physical card games, struggle with this whole balance of whether or not to support the local game store, right? On the surface, your LGS are basically your advocates out there, right? They're your remote stores that are going to host events, that are going to grab the community around them to create pockets of GA communities, right? Grand Archive, One Piece, Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic, whatever those communities are. However, traditionally, because of the way that online sales have kind of happened, it hasn't been very beneficial to those stores to carry the products because essentially they normally have to charge a much higher premium than going directly to the source, like Amazon. So this has happened with Magic where Magic products essentially are so much less expensive at Amazon.com than they are at your local game store, which makes it really hard for players who are trying to support the local game store to really shell out like extra 20, 30, 40 bucks sometimes to buy the same product, right? Obviously you get it right there. There's less chance of like having issues. You may get a promo, but some of that just doesn't equate for a lot of players out there, right? Again, Grand Archive is probably thinking about the same type of struggles, so they are going to try to support the local game store more. What that means is they're going to be stamp promos, they're going to be different incentives for players kind of showing up and buying products at a LGS rather than going directly to an online seller, right? So that is actually a really positive thing overall for the store. And again, like that's going to be the difference for a lot of players experience-wise from playing Grand Archive at home and over webcam or whatnot. Versus going to a local game store. Now, that does suck for a lot of players out there that don't have local game stores that they can easily kind of go to. And I hear you, man. So look, the best thing I can tell you is ideally, if there's a store around you, go in, tell them to support this game, tell them about this game, and tell them about like how to, I don't know, reach out to Roger so they can sign them up. Basically, if you can start to build a community, then you could probably get a lot of that support locally to you as well. Okay, and the last piece is about global expansion, and this is probably the most exciting part for me as a, long-term advocate of Grand Archive. I think of it like this, right? If you want to build this game, you do have to expand globally, you have to hit other markets. And I'm not even talking about like Grand Archive in different languages yet, because I think that takes quite a bit of effort to make sure that work goes well. But even just getting the cards in the hands of players that aren't necessarily in the local area, right? Some of the players I know, like in UK and whatnot, they have to get the cards shipped to them, which really sucks because there's no way for them to locally go purchase this, right? And the reason they can't locally purchase this is because a lot of distributors in United Kingdom and other places, for example, don't support this game. So they don't have boxes shipped to them where they can sell it directly to their local game stores. So, like right now there's more expansion. So for example, opening up a distribution channel in UK will help a lot with that region. Obviously it doesn't cover everybody in outside of US, but it is a first step. And of course, more distributors will come online because of this. That will allow multiple regions to then acquire Grand Archive cards, right? Dragon Shield sleeve collaboration is really cool. I know that Flesh and Blood did this a while back with their characters and having that collaboration. Personally, I'm a big fan of Dragon Shields. I know a lot of my friends are actually Katana fans and whatnot, but we can all pretty much consistently say that Ultra Pros suck, right? So I'm actually really glad that Grand Archive is collaborating with Dragon Shield here, because one of my kind of like things I hate about Magic sleeves is that a lot of Magic artwork and Magic, they have an exclusive contract or collaboration, whatever, with Ultra Pro. And so that's why a lot of the Magic sleeves you will only see in Ultra Pro, sold by Ultra Pro. And that's why a lot of the artwork, printed official artwork, are done by Ultra Pro. In my opinion, Ultra Pro is a more inferior product in general. Their binders, their sleeves, their even the actual binder pages are just less well designed than something like Dragon Shield. Kind of sucks, but that's what it is. There's that. So general thoughts, right, on this article. I think, from what I can tell, GA is going prime time, right? Obviously, writing an article like this is telling everybody, hey, guys, we're super serious about the game. We are continuing to expand, which is all good signs. That means they're doing well financially, and they're seeing the longer runway now from an indie company, a Kickstarter-only card game, right? And I say it's like a small Kickstarter, but it's not really small because they raised $1 million on Kickstarter, so it's not a joke, right? But one of the concerns I have, and I always kind of have this in general with this card game, is that I see and feel them doing too many things at the same time, right? And I wonder, is it taking on too much? Is it over-promising too much that it's gonna, and the thing is they're gonna deliver it, but my fear is it's gonna be a little bit rough getting there, and it's gonna really burn out a lot of the people who work there, right? So some things I kind of fear there, just again, it's especially with, for example, a lot of card games, when they first come out, they don't have foils for a long time, and they introduce foils or maybe an alternate art once in a while. GA has now, foils, the CSR treatment, the Quicksilver treatment, and there's many other treatments probably coming soon. So I see and fear that this could be, again, taking on too much at a time when maybe more time can be spent focused on something. So just something that I'm like a little bit afraid of here. But on the positive side of that exact same perspective is, I see Weeps really pushing themselves, pushing their team, pushing the whole entire innovation part into many, many directions. And I see them trying. And I'm not saying like, if, for example, CUR, we knew how much effort it takes to make collectors, ultra rare, serialized cards with individual signatures on each card. So of course they're kind of pulling back on that and saying, hey, look, that was great for a Kickstarter, like, nice to give away to our fans for first edition, but that's not going to be a consistent thing forever. Maybe it'll come back in the future, but it's not a guarantee, right? So I see them trying different things and kind of figuring things out. And I love it when companies take that chance and take that risk to try something and see if it works out. And lastly, I just want to leave you with this line, this quote from this article that really resonated with me. And, I'll just kind of show it up here, right? But believe us when we say, we'd rather do it right than fast. And we hope to continue to give quality back to the community. Let that set in for a little bit, right? How many companies out there are just really ready to kind of give you fast, grab the fast cash and run? I see Magic, for example, releasing 10 sets, 11 sets a year type of thing, tons of different products. At this point, Pokemon products just scroll for like 4, 5, 6 pages. And I have no clue I'm glad my daughter doesn't know about Pokemon yet, but imagine her asking me about Pokemon products and I have no clue. As a vendor, as somebody who should really know this stuff, not be able to provide a recommendation because I have no clue what's going on. There's so many different lines of product, tins, battle boxes, booster cases, like the, whatever those, I don't know what they're called, but the ones that have coins and like 3 cards and a bunch of packs. Is that good? I don't know, right? And I think of that with respect to what Grand Archive is trying to do, which is let's do something correctly and do it right the first time and make sure we have a good out-of-the-box experience rather than just giving more stuff out there, right? And that is really powerful to me to kind of have this, and this is one of the reasons why I have this long-term belief in the company, right, as an individual. So look, I will always support doing it right over doing it fast. So these are all good things that I see. All right, so one last quick note from myself. Look, Alchemical Revolution, which is the 3rd set for Grand Archive, does release on January 26th in 2024, so coming up pretty soon, 3 months or so. I do want to tell you, obviously, every single time I say this, whenever there's a new product like this, please, 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 if you can, go out and support your local game stores. Obviously, it sounds like there's going to be some promos that will come with this set. So meaning if you purchase at your local game store, you may be getting a little bit more of stuff in general than elsewhere, like Amazon and whatnot. But if you're out there in the boonies with no local game store, barely internet, you got chicken wires going everywhere, right, to hook up your 56K modem connection. I don't know how you're watching this video. I do have a Patreon that will kind of bridge that gap. My goal, especially here with Grand Archive, is really just to make sure players have access to the game so they can play the game, right? So obviously, if you're out there, if you don't have access to a local game store that you can easily acquire cards from, that is another option. Myself, other content creators have the same thing too. But again, it's my channel, so I'll show my own stuff. Links in the description to my Patreon. For $15 a month, you're able to order products and shipping is included. Price is very competitive to the market. So if you don't have access to the local game store, I provide a secondary option for you to acquire Grand Archive or Magic Gathering products. I have some Fab, but honestly, that's not a market that I really understand, so I'm probably not going to be selling much Fab stuff from now on. One last request from me personally is that I had a personal goal. I have a personal goal this year, 2023, to hit 5,000 subscribers. I'm very close, but not quite there yet. So if you can do me a big favor, subscribe to my channel if you're watching it and not subscribed and you like what I'm doing here. And that'll help me a ton. And thank you so much. As always, Mark from SolarGames, stay classy.